All right, Joel. Okay, I'm gonna start with a few slides.
All right, go for it. Go ahead.
And then you.
So where do you want me to stand? Oh, okay.
All right. Okay, it's on. All right. Hi, everyone. We're gonna get started. Cool. My name is Cyril. I'm working here at AI User Group. I'm gonna be your host tonight. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Let's talk more about what AI User Group is. So we are a group of professionals interested in learning about the latest AI tools. We do 3 sessions. One is AI for marketers, another one is AI for designers, and the third one is AI for developers. So if you're interested in any of these fields, feel free to join our other events. We are also doing one conference a year. It's gonna be in April this 2025. And we are also planning to do some hackathons very, very soon, so you'll know soon about this. But first, it's called a shameless promotion. So this is what we do. So we are a company and we are organizing tech events. So if you guys are in a need to organize events, so we do workshops, hackathons, meetups, conferences, and we help companies reaching out to a tech audience, mostly developers, but also data scientists. So all, I would say like tech enablement team are our targets. So if you know, or if you are part of these teams and you want to organize events, think about us. Cool. That being said, the agenda for today, we'll have Joel, who is here, talking about enhancing your customer engagement with real-time communication. Then we have Carlos over there, talking about what I learned from selling generative AI to over 500 professionals in the last 18 months. And then we'll have Derek, very interesting talk from Derek, talking about building a reliable AI agent with predictive ML and no LLMs required. So very, very interesting. And then we'll have an open mic. So if you have any announcement to do, if you are hiring, if you are looking for a job as well, if you are looking for a partner, if you are launching a startup, if you are launching a product and you want to have your first users, please stand up at the end of the event and you'll have a minute to present to the community. We also have the LinkedIn audience over there, so you can also receive some support and feedback from the community. But without further ado, this is something very, very, very important that we are never enforcing, but we want you to be aware that eventually doors will be closed, and it's usually about 8:50 to 9 p.m. So keep that in mind. Right. And then also, if you are working on an AI tools, if you have been using an AI tools, if you learn something using AI tools, please let me know, and you can be a speaker yourself. We are a community, so we are hoping to have speakers from the community. Also, very interesting talks is also like the failures. So if you used AI and it didn't work out, it's also a good practice, and we are very interested by this kind of talks as well. And now, Joel will take the stage. Let's do it.
All right. All right, let me just get going here. Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with a little PowerPoint presentation. and then move into the demo. All right, cool. So my name's Joel Garcia. I'm the CEO of a company called Cloud Contact AI. I'm also the CEO of a company called Allcode. So Allcode is an advanced AWS consulting partner. We migrate and modernize people's cloud solutions. And as a consulting partner, we work with a number of different small firms who have problems to solve. So one of the problems that we had to solve was for this client called Let's Play Soccer, right? But hold on, before I do that, let me just introduce myself a little bit more. So I've been in the Bay Area for 25 years or so. I used to work at a company called LiveVox, which did hosted call center solutions. Basically, we were the people robo-dialing people for debt. And then I did another one called Same Sky Health that was a patient engagement platform using SMS. Both of those got acquired. So after doing kind of the VP of engineering startup gig for a little while, we opened Allcode to start helping our consulting clients migrate to the cloud. And then what transpired is some of our clients came to us and said, we need help. Right? So Let's Play Soccer. One of our clients, we've been working with them for about 10 years. A friend of ours initially brought them to us. They have 22 indoor soccer facilities scattered throughout the US. Kind of a weird use case, but they're profitable. They made money. They were doing pretty well until COVID hit. So what you might be able to imagine is if you're running 22 indoor soccer facilities and then COVID hits, you don't make any money. Basically, the facility shut down and now you have to pay off your 22 mortgages. That's ugly, right? So now they were in a bit of a pickle. They're our client. They were continuing to pay us a little bit, but they weren't really bringing in any money, and they had millions of dollars worth of mortgages to pay off. So they came to us and said, hey, we're surviving on PPP loans. What do we do, right? So emerging out of COVID, not a lot of people wanted to go play indoor soccer and sweat on other people and do those sorts of things, right? So they came to us because they tried calling people, they tried emailing people, nothing was getting through, right? So we built them a solution, and that's the solution that we're going to demo today, called Cloud Contact AI. And so effectively what this solution does is it enables them to SMS and send email in real time to their customers to try to get them to engage, to try to get them to show up for games, and then to actually try to collect their money. So basically they have 3 or 4 different use cases where they're reaching out, engaging with people, trying to drive them to the facility so that they can make more money, right? And so what's interesting is a lot of these engagement strategies lend themselves really nicely to some form of AI, because the people that are doing the communication, the messaging is almost always the same, the frequency is almost always the same. So what we built for them specifically is kind of bidirectional SMS. And so what that means is I can launch a large campaign going out to 1,000 players, asking them if they want to play. 100 people will respond. How do I process those responses in real time, right? So right now what they're doing is they staff it up with 8 different people. So they'll send out a blast to their 22 different facilities, and then they'll basically respond to those inquiries by having people say, oh, you can sign up for this team, or you can sign up for this season. A lot of things that are kind of rote that require someone to look something up in a database and get back to them. There's also a different component, which is engagement, right? So if people are having a game, they want to be reminded of the game. After a game, you may want to send them a survey. So again, things that can be automated, things that are done manually today, where an AI agent may be able to help them out. And then the last is arguably the most important part, which is billing, right? So actually, if you have 22 indoor soccer facilities and you're trying to get all these different peoples to pay you 40 or 50 bucks, it's really time consuming and painful. So what you'd like to do is you'd like to put in a strategy to automate the collections of that money so that you can grow as a company, right? So they started with us. They started with one facility out of the 22. They began sending these messages out, and they immediately got flooded with a response rate of basically 50%. They were cold calling people, they were emailing people, they got no response. Kind of think of it like coming out of COVID, would you have gone to a movie theater? Were you going to a restaurant? Were you going to a facility? The answer is no. So we solved this problem for Let's Play by building this platform that I'm going to show for you, which enabled them to engage with their clients, right? And so after basically a couple of months, they started using the platform for all 22 facilities. They were able to get 200 new teams in the door, and then their revenue kind of went back to where it was before coming out of COVID. So basically, their CEO liked the product so much that he gave us this nice testimonial sort of articulating how their sales process completely changed and how they not only used it for sales, they started using it for hiring, they used it for a number of different things. And so what's next for these guys is we're basically starting to build these autonomous AI agents. And so the AI agents will start to respond to inquiries, and then they'll start to generate outbound campaigns and know when the best time to generate a campaign. We're also, so that's what I'll demo real quick. So and then if people want to get into the geeky side of what we're doing in terms of the AI agents, we can also go there. But basically, we've got semi-agentic workflows, which basically means, and so how many people in the room have like run an AI to engage with a customer? Has anyone done that? Right? And so when you're running an AI to engage with a customer, you don't have any control as to what the AI is saying to it. So, in a traditional software development code world, there would be like a rules engine that you could debug, and if it said something wrong, you'd be able to go in and correct the code. What happens with these AI agents is they're kind of out in the wild, and what you have to do is you have to refine and break into tasks different portions of the ingoing prompts so that you can try to solve them, right? And so that's why we've been preaching the semi-agentic workflow so that you have some semblance of control. Next, we've got DSPY, which is out of Stanford. And so what that does is, so now I'm able to break up the AI requests into chunks. And I need to, if I change one, it's going to change everything down the line. So I need to be able to measure how it's changing. Third thing is RAG. So how many people have heard of RAG? I'm assuming the whole room has heard of RAG. Okay, so if you haven't heard of RAG, it's called Retrieval Augmented Generation. And so in the AI space, you've heard a lot about GPUs, you've heard a lot about LLMs, large language models. Most people here won't do any of that, right? It requires incredibly expensive hardware with GPUs. That's sort of for the big boys. You're not going to be fine-tuning your models. But basically what you're going to do if you're going to invest in an AI solution is you're going to upload your content into what's called a vector database. So the vector database behaves a little bit differently than your traditional database, but it's basically doing the same thing. It's taking the input data that you have, looking it up against an index, and finding the appropriate results, right? So the two that we've used the most are Pinecone and FAISS. And so the guts of it is basically it enables you to integrate your content with the LLM without tuning on your content, right? So hence, if there's something specific about Let's Play, so for the standard example that we use is if I'm trying to schedule an appointment and I'm talking to an AI bot, the LLM is going to know nothing about my schedule availability. So I have to pass the schedule availability into the prompt to tell the AI to use that, right? So if I wanted to book a field at 11 a.m., the AI wouldn't know. I would hit the vector database, find the field availability, and then say there's available time slots at 11, 12, and at 1, and then I'd pass that into the AI as a prompt, which would subsequently use that and give back the correct response. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Cool, so we're migrating to these AI agents, and then, so let me just show you a little bit of the product demo. Okay, again, it's a pretty robust solution. So let's play soccer, and basically what they have is they have these notions of clients, right? So what you'll notice is you have different locations. You have Boise, you have Colorado Springs, you have Lansing. These are different geographical locations in the United States, right? So each one of these has its own phone number, right? And then within one of those geographical locations, they have contacts that are specific to that client. So Boise is only going to have contacts that are specific to Boise, because I wouldn't want to communicate a campaign about Lansing to Boise. It doesn't make any sense, right? So we started out with these different silos of data that do the outbound communication. And so the one that I'm going to show to you is basically their sales campaigns. So how do these work, right? So we've got these sales campaigns where effectively this first one is someone is reaching out after a game. They've scheduled a text message to go out, which is basically, how was your game, right? So the person receives it on their phone, they pick up their phone, and then they respond, right? And so this is real data. So here we've got 33 messages that have come back. So they've sent out, how was your game? They've got 33 responses. And what you'll notice is someone has to log in and basically go through all of these responses for all of these clients, right? So basically, each one of these clients has got all this huge inbox. It's a ton of data to get through. So right now, what they're doing is basically they're assigning different resources. Hold on. They're assigning different resources to go in and work through the queue. Hold on, my mouse isn't working. Give me a sec. Huh. There we go. Okay. So here's one. Hi, Samantha. My name is Brooke, and we're helping you find a team, right? And so what you can see is there's all this outbound engagement, and then the goal is really to get them to pay, right? So I'm hitting, this person is hitting Samantha up, trying to get them to go to West Jordan. This person is basically, the mouse is behaving weird. So this person is similar. So we've got all this communication going back and forth. They're hiring people to answer the responses, right? And so what we're trying to get to is that you can actually do this with an autonomous agent, right? So you can start to basically not spend money on sort of rote things that you're hiring someone to do, get the agent to do it to drive more business to you. So that's the inbox. Here are the different campaigns, and then here are the clients. So, so one of the demos that we've got is we have a different account, which we have set up, and where we actually have it set up with one of the agents. So what I can do is I can basically go in and text the agent. Can you tell me, more info about Cloud Contact AI? And so this is sort of the beginning of the communication. So there's my text message that came in, and then what we've done, and this is the autonomous agent that we've developed that we walked through in the past with the semi-agentic workflow, is we've uploaded information on what the LLM can use in the prompt, so subsequently it can respond, so I don't require the manpower to service the operations, right? And so in terms of AI, with kind of these outbound engagement platforms, we can see slowly but surely, with regards to SMSs and emails, a lot of the responses will start to become more and more automated for what you would probably classify as tier 1 and tier 2 support. So think about if you have a problem with your Salesforce account, or you have a problem with your Jira account, you reach out, you file a ticket. Right now, there's someone on the other end who goes in and looks up in a knowledge base, they find the correct answer, and subsequently they send it back. That will all be automated, right? And so what we're starting to hear more and more about is a third component, which is currently hidden, which is kind of the voice. We'll start to have these autonomous AI voice bots, which will literally do the same thing, right? They'll make use of, OpenAI's, real-time voice API to basically do the transcription, pass it into the LLM, provide you with the response, and then you will have to put your RAG situation in there to give it the context of what your response will be. And so the third angle will be basically with these solutions, we've got these outbound campaigns that are going out. The outbound campaigns are scheduled and run by people. Eventually, they won't be, right? Eventually, they're just all going to be scheduled based upon your behavior at the facility. So if you've been a regular player for 3 months and you haven't come for a week, you'll start to get a new campaign initiated trying to get you to go there. So the communication channels of voice, SMS, and email, they're already kind of insidious, but they're just going to become more and more addictive, for lack of a better term. Any questions?
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Do we have questions for Joel? Yeah, let's give Joel a round of applause. Who has a question? Yes. So before you ask the question, I'm going to just ask you to stand so the online audience can see you.
All right. Hi. I was wondering, how did you, when you first started to come up with the solution to automate the process, and they already had 8 human agents.
Yep.
How did you manage that, process of you were basically eliminating their jobs?
There are other things that they can do.
Right.
Right. And I think that's the best way of approaching it, right?
Right.
Which is you can spend your time kind of sitting there filling out templatized responses to
Right.
these things, or you can hand off and you can go do something else at the facility.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And did that happen?
Yeah. That's in the process of happening. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I think, it's kind of like the horse and buggy to the car, right?
Right,
There was
right.
the person who used to fix the horse and buggy. That person was no longer required. There was this new thing. Engineers are required for that. You may have to learn a new skill.
Right.
But I think that's where we're headed.
Right. No, I agree with that. It's just the change management process. Was that
Right.
a challenge or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no. So definitely. So initially, the AI agents didn't really work. Right, and so it's part of it's part of the RAG process with the semi-agentic workflow, simply because I think people raised their hand and said that they had used AI for customer support, right? How many of you have used it and had the AI tell the customer the wrong thing, right? And so what ends up happening is we had a scenario where we had a client coming in trying to schedule a game, and the AI was telling it could schedule, a team to play in September, but it was November, right? And so it's just and so one of the things that is tricky with the AI is that and if you've engaged with it, it's really confident.
Right.
So it will be wrong,
Right.
but it will
Confident.
It will,
Confidently wrong.
100% confident that what it's telling you is correct.
Yeah.
Until you correct it, and then if it's a good AI and you're passing in the entire message stream, it will realize it's made a mistake, but it may not apologize.
Right.
Right. And so part of that is just. So we've had a couple of failed attempts, and it's just the iterative process and building up that, that agentic workflow so that it will start to actually work. Initially, people are just like, turn it off, right?
Right, and the RAG helped with.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, it has to be done.
Yeah.
Right? Because what happens is, and for you, so OpenAI and Claude, they all have different data sources, and you're not 100% sure where the data is coming from.
Right.
But since it's a competent entity, it's going to state with certainty that it is correct,
Right.
even though it may not have the correct source. So what the RAG enables you to do is it enables you to upload the content that you know that you want that agent to service.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
More questions? Yes?
Hi.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. Question around, I see you have some agents that take care of some of the workflows. Do you see, if you look into the future, do you see a multi-agent workflow framework that would be the operator of the entire platform on top of?
Conceivably,
Right.
right? We will head there, right? And so what happens is as soon as you start to play with it and see, so you have to identify the different inquiries and the different prompts, and then you associate them, and then subsequently, there's a finite number of requests, right? Is basically what it boils down to. So there may be the situation where you need one or two, but certainly not what the current allotment is, right? I mean, it's coming, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah. So you do see, you think it's, in your case, 12 months out, or this is like a years out, or?
I would, so there are, I would say, maybe 2 years,
Okay.
right? Is what I would guess,
Okay.
right?
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Hi, question about your data. Did you, when you prepared the data for the RAG and the vector database, did you rethink your data, or you just used it exactly as is and it worked
We
out
had,
of the box?
we had to rethink it, right?
Like, what do you mean, like just the current schema was not right? You played around with this agent, and when it reasoned about text, it wasn't great, so you tweaked it. Like, can you explain a little?
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now, most of the data is stored in a way to service a website, right? And so that data, the way that it was structured, we could just not pass it in that format. It wouldn't know what to do with it, right? So for example, there's this notion of games. And so the game has a notion of team 1 and team 2, right? And then the game has the notion of a roster. So what we ended up doing was basically doing, effectively an ETL out of a relational database into this NoSQL vector database so that we could put it in a format that you could generate the vector embedded index upon, right? So it's a process, right? And so initially when we tried it, just sort of passing data fields in, what we realized is that there was no context other than the headers associated with the data values. Helpful? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the table doesn't work. You had to make it into a long text.
Correct. Yes.
We have time for one more question. Yes?
Hello, thank you. Great. That was very interesting. I was just wondering in regards to your chatbots, if you've been able to ID customers so that you're able to retrieve info from past chats or past interactions.
So we store those, right? So the product stores those. right? So with texting, you can use the inbound phone number, the inbound DID. So what we end up doing is if I text today, it will recognize that I'm Joel Garcia based upon my phone number, right? And then subsequent responses, it has all of the message content, right? So it's able to see that I texted September 13th. And so what happens with the agent is that all of that gets passed in so that it can use that context to generate the response, right? And so that helps it gain the AI gain context on what it should say, right? So so the key, just like the email address, for the phone, it's just the inbound DID. Cool.
Great. And how long did it take for the agent to be accurate?
Oh, yeah, 9 months.
9 months.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
cool.
there's a whole,
So we need to be patient.
And so it's a different beast when you unleash it on customers. And so we were having this discussion before where if I'm using it and I'm using it as sort of a resource and then I cut and paste and stick it into a Word document, there's me sort of going through it before that Word document is presented to the customer. It's entirely a different beast when it's on the front lines, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Let's give Joel a round of applause. Thank you for this very insightful presentation.
Thanks, man.
And next in line, it's gonna be Carlos.
Okay. Here we go. Thanks so much. Well, good evening, everybody. The title of this presentation, as you can see, is how we've been teaching, training over 500 professionals in generative AI for the last 18 months. Well, in AI timescales, everything goes fast, so it's already 600, right? So everything goes very, very fast. I'm Carlos Angeles. Yeah, I'm named like the city of Los Angeles, but I'm here in San Francisco. I prefer it, by the way. I'm an engineer myself in my background, but very soon I started not developing technology, but selling technology. And I've been selling cutting-edge technology for the last 25 years. And the winner strategy to sell this cutting-edge technology was being able to explain in very simple words how it worked. So customers we could be able to trust, to build a trusting relationship with them. So, finally someone is explaining me how it works, so you will have the order, right? So I was successful in that, and ultimately I found out that that's my superpower, explaining very complex things in a very easy way, and using that I've been selling training for the AI generative for the last 18 months, pretty much when it just appeared, okay? Why this talk is interesting for you? Well, it's my educated guess. I would say you are not into the sales, right? You are into the, product management or product development or marketeers, all right? But what we found out in all this generative AI space, teaching people that were out of this bubble, because this is a bubble, right? People out there, they're not aware of what's going on. Well, number one is AI is everywhere, okay? It's just everywhere. People just, they hear about this, nobody knows anything, but it's just the buzzword and the hype, okay? The second thing is that we were teaching real people. We were exposing this to real people who are not developers, who are not tech people. Actually, the lessons we took after this ride were that we were teaching fishing companies, insurance companies, even aluminum factories. So people who are nothing about tech And we were getting so interesting insights about how they were exposed to this AI that we are inventing here. Well, there are several lessons that we learned about this, and I'm going to share with you now. Lesson number one is, well, AI will not do anything until we ask, all right? And to be honest, we've been asking in the last years. Now we are going to ask to someone else. But the point is, we don't ask really well. And that's a real example. One of our students was saying, okay, I want a picture of this Mother Teresa of Calcutta fighting poverty, and you can see that she's fighting poverty with Kung Fu, right? And then this lady said, that's not what I meant. Yeah, but that's what you asked. So the point is, we start our lives asking a lot, and for some reason we just stop asking. Why is that? Any guess? Because we all had the same experience. The point is, we forgot to ask because we've been trained to answer. All our education system for decades is they teach you to answer questions. Tests are answer these questions. So we forget to ask. We are not wired to ask anymore. And the better you ask, the better outcome you will have from AI generative, right? So we forgot to ask. That's the first insight. People find out they ask very poorly. Second lesson, well, you don't learn AI alone. Basically, this is what we found from our students, more than 600 now, before our training. Nobody is really using this. Most of the people, they haven't used it, or they abandon very quickly, okay? And we're talking about people from all sorts of ages, all sorts of countries and continents. So basically, what we find is, if you learn AI together with a community, you will share the good and the bad. And then this will boost your learnings, okay? So creating a community is always the best way to teach and learn AI. Next lesson. Lesson 3 was, well, we always ask this question at the beginning of the training. So what AI cannot do? And I would tell you, like 99% of people would say, well, AI cannot be human. It cannot deliver empathy. And look at this. After the training, just some outcasts, but most of them say, no. Of course AI can command emotion and empathy. And this is a real example. This is a paper with 1,000 patients being diagnosed and communicating, comparing a human MD with ChatGPT. So on the graphic on your left, you can see how accurate was the diagnosis. On the graphic on your right, you can see how empathetic the patient felt. Both were. And you know what? Generative AI was winning by storm. Okay? So people really perceive AI very empathetic. Of course, AI cannot have a bad day, or you will not fight with your family, all right? So you will not be, inside a traffic jam. So this empathy could be boosted. Well, the next lesson is very funny, which is, and something, my previous speaker was saying something about this, okay? So we believe just because it's so intelligent, we can just write anything like this. And we are going there. We all know we're going there, but we are not there yet. So one of the key points on the learning curve on this Gen AI is start simple. Have your task and just take bit by bit. There is no perfect prompt. It's a conversation. You have a conversation with AI. Just you command the conversation. You drive the conversation and you just use AI to reach valuable outcomes. So it's not asking, it's just asking several times until you reach your value. The learning steps, naturally, and I believe even you were living in this scenario. Well, number one, when you found Gen AI, it has the wow factor, like, wow, look at this, okay? The second step is you feared it. It's like, oh, this could take my job, okay? Because it's as good as I am without all the, background or experience that I needed to become this good. And during our trainings, it was funny because we started training the individual contributors. And later on, we were training the middle management. So in the gap between training all these individual contributors and not teaching the middle management, everybody was using this clandestine, like, don't tell my boss I'm using this. I don't want my boss to find out that a task that before took me 5 hours, I can do it in 5 minutes. Don't tell him, don't tell her. And this is over when that management knows about AI, all right? So, now it's a requirement. Now you can use AI. I want this done by this afternoon, not 3 days from now, okay? So, the whole thing is driving a transformation, how we work, how we deliver, how we produce. And this is a very deep, deep transformation. I would say, in a very short time, you would not hire anyone without the knowledge of using generative AI. You would not hire anybody who doesn't use a mouse or cannot send one email, right? So this will become very soon a requirement for being hired. Lesson 5. Well, lesson 5 is quite funny because you start teaching AI, but you spark other things. So basically, AI is ask. If you don't get your result, maybe you're asking wrongly. Ask again. So can you imagine having a full team of people not fearing asking badly and trying again? This is the spark of a change of a mindset. So basically, you learn for the good trials, and you also learn from the mistakes. And you share them in the community, because as we told before, you learn this in a community. So you share what's going well, what's going badly, and we all learn together. We are fearless of mistakes. And this is amazing, because if you are not ready to be wrong, you cannot be creative. And this is boosting creativity. We all could be creative with AI. Do you think you are not creative? Yes, you are. And with the help with AI, you can just wake it up. And the funny thing is, top managers are not ready for this. They must adapt to have teams being creative and proactive. And, I would say generative AI ready, okay? Lesson 6, only 2 to go. Well, in the beginning, we all start with efficiency, If you ask why you are using AI, what is the cool thing about learning AI? Well, let me say this. This is a small confession. I'm driving places, and I have my, Maps app on. Anybody of you do that? Who's driving to your place and you're using your app? You know the right, you know the road, you know the way, but you still have it there. Why is that? Because, technology keeps us company. Used to be, like the radio or TV, social media, and now your best companion is going to be AI. Because all of these things, because it's everywhere, because it's useful, because it's available. So in our trainings, we found out something. People step into the AI world for efficiency. Just do the same thing, only better. Better, faster, But ultimately, they found out something amazing. This is just the first step. The real value of AI is doing new stuff, unthinkable without AI. Just doing the same stuff, that's not the extra mile. You will not be different. You have to do new things that only with AI are possible. And that's the real value. I don't want to do the same things instead of 10 hours in 1 hour. I want to do new things because that is being ahead of my competition. So you are also waking up these questions like, what can I do? What am I not asking to this thing? Because maybe the things that I'm not asking is the real value. So this mindset of experimenting, asking new things, is something that you spark on everybody in the team, okay? And basically, if you revisit my last slide, you can also group those things in the efficiency and the creating value category, okay? So my last lesson is about something that we fear. We fear that we will lose our humanity. AI will take over, control decisions, and I totally disagree. And I have proof of this because this happened before. So let me share an example with you. We've been going through many tech revolutions. I'm old enough that I've been outliving all these revolutions, okay? So basically, for the first time, the thing obsolete is going to be people and roles, not tasks. That's why we fear this. And also this happened before. Real example. Imagine you are a portrait painter 300 years ago. Someone's hiring you to just paint a picture of someone. That takes time. Only wealthy people could do it. There's no filters, like this wrinkle, and difficult to copy. And then suddenly you have this. And look at the change. What would you choose? And you're the painter. Panic. So what are you going to do when you are no longer needed for portraits? And you know what happened? Happened this. Artists did not have to paint what they have in front of their very eyes. They could paint what they felt about what they have before them. So this boosted the creativity and all the artistic movements in the last 130 years, just because they were not needed to take pictures of people. So what is going to happen for us when we don't have to make the work of AI? So that's what we want. And ultimately, my conclusion is, unexpectedly, AI allows us to be more human than ever. If we head for the creativity, the dreams, and to have a proper and sensible conversation with generative AI. Let me finish with more credits. I can have only 60 or 70% credit of this deck because, AI was helping me on this, but still 2/3 was my credit, okay? Thank you very much.
Oh, let's give Carlos a round of applause. Hey, 2/3 is a lot. All right, do we have questions? Yes, no? Okay, I'm gonna start. So when you tried selling AI to these corporations, what was the most unusual use case you saw?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked this. The most amazing thing about generative AI is what is one of the latest technologies showing up and how transversal it is. I mean, people of all ages of all countries, of all languages, started using it. And we have this anecdote of, actually, it was the father of one of our co-founders. And for her birthday, her father was giving her like a poem. And she said, "Oh, Dad, thanks so much. That's so sweet from you." And her father told him, "Well, you know what? I've been using this thing online to write this poem. It's called ChatGPT." And then she said, like, "Yeah, I know. I'm into that. And do you know that besides poems, you can then write also and generate like tales for your grandchildren? So every night you can just explain a different tale." And he goes, "What? I can just write different tales for my grandchildren, different every night?" "Yeah." And his comment was, How long have you known about this and you did not tell me? I'm really upset. I want to know this now." And he's a 75-year-old man. 75 years old. So how useful is this? How profound and deep is going to change this all of our lives, not only our works, okay? So basically the name of our company, which is IA minus, that means AI now. Because really, the outcome of everything we do now is everybody says, "I want to learn this now. I want my team to know this now. I want this now because tomorrow might be late."
Great, thank you. Questions? Yes?
Hi. I really appreciated it. I enjoyed it very much. And I was going to ask you a question. It's more of an existential question in regards to where human IQ and AI will truly interact, in your opinion. And I say this only because AI still cannot paint. And so I'm wondering, like, where does AI truly can enhance us to become better humans, from your point of view? Thank you.
Well, that's a very good question. I remember this, just regarding your comment. When I was in college, it was like a long time back in the day, long time ago, and calculators were banned. You cannot bring the calculator to do the exam. You have to make all the calculation in your mind. Okay, that was yesterday. So that was, I don't know, that was a bit ridiculous, because you are an engineer and you just use your calculator. And the value of this is that you interpret the numbers and you just know how to calculate, and just put some good science in this with common sense, right? So I'm not concerned about IQ of people. It's just, I think we have to use the calculator of the 21st century, which is this. And I sometimes wonder if Mozart was alive today, which kind of music he would compose, because he's a genius, right? But with other tools, you just get 1 mile further. So this is a tool for smart people to excel, and for regular people to improve dramatically. Sometimes I say, imagine everybody in your team is an A player, all of them, thanks to AI. Once they're trained and they know how to use it, they will outperform themselves 2 months ago. So how do you manage a team of A players? All of them. So I'm not concerned about IQs. I'm concerned about how organizations and management will have to change after everybody knows about this. Have I answered your question?
And what's your take on this? How they need to change?
Well, basically, this is empowering people. You can do better, you can do more sophisticated, you can consider more factors. You just need to make the right questions. And let me tell you this. Maybe the right questions are not formulated by the top guys. Maybe somebody else in the team is the one making the right questions. So this is empowering people to just outperform the whole thing and transform the business and creating more value. So open this to everybody, because maybe the guys making the best questions are not in the spotlight.
Great. More questions? Yes.
Your picture of Picasso art reminded me that he said that computers are useless, they only provide answers. So it's a good quote, I think. My question is around, you said we can do the unthinkable. Great. I'm very creative, engineer, and invent things. Any good frameworks that you're teaching people how to do this, how to think about this unthinkable stuff? Like how do you actually not just invent something that's 10 times faster of what we already do today? Any ideas?
Well, thanks for your question. It needs a dynamic answer, because every 10 weeks we change the whole training, you know, it's just horrible. You cannot teach the same every 3 months. You have to just remake everything because everything's changing so fast. So basically, we've been in the last years visiting different ways of creating value. You name it, design thinking, Scrum, Agile, a lot of things, you know, just to be faster, be leaner, just to time to market to be really, really agile. And you know what? Yet, you can use some templates, some patterns. You can teach, I mean, you can learn everything. There's a technique for everything. So you can find out a template of thinking out of the box. And then you have your body, which is generative AI. So basically, it's an ongoing conversation 24/7 with that thing. So when we do this in these trainings, we find out people just name ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or Copilot with human names. Let me ask Henry. Who's Henry? Well, this thing, you know, I speak with him or with her. So basically, it's a mindset of how you ask out of the box. And yes, I think it could be transferred and taught. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I agree about the questions. Just like how do you put yourself in that place to ask different angle to the question? I mean, we're all blown away by the result of the thing, but we only kind of know where we grew up and what the normal problems of the world are. Can this help us really truly ask new questions in a new way? Like, what's a good example of that? All I see is a lot of business applications that are making things 10 times faster.
Yeah. Well, just as a final comment, I would say that if generative AI is good at something, it's connecting dots that we cannot figure out. So sometimes what we do is we ask people, just ask ChatGPT or any of them, ask what it would do with this. How will you connect the dots that I'm not seeing? And the answers are remarkable. So just ask him or her to start the conversation with you, like have a dialogue back, okay? Well, even me, I'm referring as him or her, so go figure if I speak with that thing every day.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Anyone? Any taker? Cool. Maybe me, since you sold AI to so many companies, what's the main reason right now for a company to not implement AI?
Well, there might be many reasons, okay? I know the reasons in positive, like why they do that. Some of them is just for the hype. like, well, AI, everybody talks about that, so let's train our people about this, okay? Of course, you have some ambassadors, some change agents inside your organizations, and some stoppers. I would say security, cybersecurity, privacy, those are stoppers that should be managed with every single organization, okay? But I would say how useful it is, how valuable for new strategies for your company and creating value for your business, that outweighs a lot all the other risks. And at some point, I would say the most difficult conversation is always with the top managers who don't understand that not going into generative AI as soon as they can will leave them out of the game very soon.
Great. Thanks, Carlos. Let's
so
give
much.
Carlos a round of applause. Very inspiring presentation. And our last but not least speaker is Derek.
Let's get this shot. Yeah, hello everybody. All right, I'm going to be the third and last presenter today. My name is Derek Chen. I am the CEO and co-founder of Soleta.ai, and we're building AI agents that you can trust. Soleta is SOLEDA.ai. And yeah, I'm really glad that Joel actually mentioned earlier today about doing contact center AI, because that's exactly where I used to work in this kind of space. And there's exactly this kind of push and pull between I want the agent to do exactly what I want and control it, but I also want it to do all the flexible, cool new things that generative AI can do. And so today's talk is really going to be about, can I get the best of both worlds? Can I get a lot of the traditional machine learning that I'm kind of used to with high accuracy and high controllability, but also get a lot of the power and flexibility that comes with all of these new LLM technologies? So getting into it, I guess I should make a little quick intro of myself. I'm a research scientist in dialogue systems, turned founder, and I've been studying this for like about the last 10 years in academia at like Stanford, Berkeley, UW, so on and so forth, and I've also applied this to real life applications. And one of the common themes that I've seen is that when you're working with AI, the goalposts tend to move a bit. And so in particular, there's this quote that says that as long as it works, no one calls it AI anymore. This is a quote from John McCarthy referring to Deep Blue. Does anyone know what event preceded this quote with Deep Blue? Anyone? Audience? Chess. That is correct. This is when Garry Kasparov got beaten by Deep Blue with IBM. And so this has been a few years ago, but now when you have something that beats a chess agent, it's like, not a big deal. It's not really AI anymore. Even in my tenure with just like the last 7 to 10 years, it's like, oh, well, now like if you can beat a Go kind of thing, well, no, Go is like 5 years ago. That's not AI anymore. And when I started, being able to like recognize cats and dogs in pictures was considered cutting edge AI. And now we're generating pictures of cats and dogs, so that's no longer AI either. And so what I really want to go into today, though, is to kind of highlight the point, though, that outside of Gen AI, there is this larger field of machine learning. So like, what is that? How does that work? I want to also talk about how does this compare to generative AI? And what can you do with this as a marketer, right? Because this is a AI and marketing event. So digging into it, traditional machine learning is training a computer model to learn a task directly from data rather than being programmed to do so. Now, this is actually pretty revolutionary because if we think about classical programming, what we see is that you're feeding in a number of rules, usually a bunch of if-then statements, and then out of that you get some answers. And so, for example, if I want to tell that something is a cat, I might say like, oh, is there some ears on it that are pointy, or is it like round like a dog? Is there some tail? Was the fur color, is it orange? You know, those are the kinds of rules that I might create. But when you feed this into machine learning, instead what you do is you say, you flip it on its head, and you give in data plus the answers, and then the machine learns for itself what those rules should be. Like, all of a sudden, you're not manually crafting a lot of those details, and instead you're letting the machine do the work for you. So this is pretty revolutionary. Now, who here also knows that there's many other algorithms out there more than just LLMs, right? Because these, it used to be that there were many other things that could occur, such as this diagram here, which is a decision tree. There's also things that are like neural networks, or naive Bayes, or k-means clustering, or deep learning. Who here has heard of some of these algorithms before already? There you go, like everybody, right? So we know that these things exist, but we don't hear about them so much anymore. Who knows the difference between neural networks and deep learning? Anybody? Anyone want to call it out? Okay, audience in the back, go ahead. More layers. Okay, we'll go with that. So a traditional neural network might take something as input, such as this image of a car right here, and then perform some sort of feature extraction. You then feed it into a feed-forward network for classification, and then decide if there's a car or not a car. Now, deep learning came around and said, oh, let's add more layers. But what was the practical application of this? The practical idea actually is that you no longer need to do a lot of the manual work with like feature extraction, where you have to say, oh, there's a tire here, or a lamp here, or a windshield here, or a car door here. Instead, you can just feed in the raw images, again with those labels, and you get an output. And the output is actually surprisingly good. And so this is the kind of advances that we've seen in the last 10 years and have only continued to get better. Now, as we move forward though, because there's all sorts of these algorithms, something that you might want to be able to do is be able to categorize them, right? Like, how am I going to make sense of all of this? So there are different ways to look at this, such as supervised versus unsupervised learning. So for example, k-means clustering is unsupervised, k-nearest neighbor is supervised. There's also very popular techniques of like NLP versus computer vision, right? These are the things where you're generating images versus generating text. But for today, what we're really going to be focusing on is the difference between generative AI versus discriminative AI. So let's dig into this then. What is generative AI? How do LLMs fit into this picture? And maybe most importantly, like, what can you do with it as a marketer? So generative AI is just machine learning models that learn patterns from large data sets and then generates new data that follows those patterns. Mathematically speaking, you can view this as the joint probability of x and y, where you can assume that x is your input and y is your target output. And if x is your input, you might say it's something like 99 pixels out of a 10 by 10 image, right? And so what is y then? Y here is the RGB values of the very last pixel. And so what you're intuitively really trying to do here, though, is you're really trying to say, what is the entire distribution of pixels within the domain of interest? And you're looking at the full probability distribution of x and y. And so in this case, we might have to ask something like, what do all cars have in common? If we know that, then we know how to fill in that last pixel. If we go a little bit broader, we might say, what do all transportation vehicles look like? Now I'm looking at all planes and trains and cars and subways, so on and so forth. Now we bring this home a little bit more, we might have to also ask ourselves, what do all display ads have in common? What do they look like? Can we learn something from this? Can we generate something from this? And if we use it more for these LLMs, we might move to the text domain, where now it's the entire distribution of tokens within the domain of interest. We might say, what does all ad copy sound like? Now, if we expand this to the full set of text, then we might say, what does all language have in common? That's exactly what gets us a large language model. Now, large language models are a type of generative AI, and generative AI has been around for a while. Even traditional machine learning includes generative AI. But these days, generative AI is probably the most popular form. LLMs is the most popular form of that, and this is a type of deep learner. It's deep because back in 2012, AlexNet had 8 layers, and just a few years later, that quadrupled into 19 layers, 24 layers, and then it was 152 layers with ResNet. These days, we have tens of thousands of layers in these transformer blocks. It's even hard to really count how that really works anymore. There's so many billions of parameters, we don't know what's going on. It's very, very deep. Now, how do you train a language model? It turns out, though, this type of algorithm is actually quite simple. It's simply next token prediction. And how does next token prediction work? Well, let's assume that the conversation starts with the word I. Okay, now let's predict the next token. Anyone want to shout out what comes after I? Am. Okay, that's a good one. How about I love? Okay, what do I love? Let's pick one more token. You, okay. I'm going to go with AI. and what? Food. Okay, it's marketing. Okay, we're here for AI and marketing. Okay, all of your guesses are very reasonable, though. Okay, we're going to do maybe two more. Let's see if you guys can do better this time. I love my what? Dog. That is perfect. That is exactly right. You're reading my mind here. Now, some people might also say something like, I love my job, but then you'd really start to question that. You're not really sure what that guy means. Okay? But these are examples of, relatively, the first one was higher perplexity, meaning you didn't quite know what came after it. Now you have something in the middle. And here I'll give you one with lower perplexity. Maybe it's easier to figure out what the next token might be. I love ice what? There you go. Everyone understood that one. That's I love ice cream. So this is exactly what the language model is trying to do when it's being trained. It's just predicting the next token. And if it's able to get a very low perplexity score or equivalently very high entropy, then it's able to figure out exactly what it needs to be able to do. The idea, though, then, is I also want to translate this into training a foundation model. So what do I have to do then? Well, beyond predicting the next token, I also now need to be able to follow instructions rather than just predicting the next word. I also need to be able to adapt to human preferences. This is done through a technique called reinforcement learning from human feedback. For the purposes of this talk, this is a little too complicated, so I'm going to put that to the side. But if there's anyone afterwards who wants to dive into the technical details, I'm happy to do so. Now, given large language models, what can we do with this as marketers? Well, the most common thing is something like content creation. We've already seen a number of startups, frankly, people who have presented in this group, that are creating copy and emails, social media, blog posts, and other forms of long-form content. Another common use case these days is personalization. We've also, I think, just talked about this today, where you can craft tailored messages for customers based on their personalized preferences. You can even do this on the fly by just seeing how they interact with your website and dynamically changing things like the call to action. Like, what were they hovering over? What should I be going after next? The next thing is maybe ideation. You can also use generative AI for brainstorming creative campaign ideas and product concepts. You can even use it for designing user personas and simulating user reactions. That's awesome. So what about the other half of this? What about discriminative AI? So this next part, I'm going to be talking about what is this, how does it compare to Gen AI, and also, once again, kind of what can you do with it. At a high level, you can almost think about it as like drawing a line in the sand, where on the left side of this, there's some like bluish, greenish thing, and on the right side, there's some like orange, yellowish thing, and so I'm going to discriminate between these two sides. So what is discriminative learning? It's really models that learn key features of different categories from large data sets and then classify new instances based on those features. Mathematically speaking, now we're looking at the conditional probability of y given x. So once again, let's assume that x is your input, y is your target output, and so x here might be all the pixels within an image, and your output y is like, what is the animal shown in the image, right? Is it perhaps a dog or a cat or a hamster or something else, right? So intuitively, what you're trying to do this time is you want your model to figure out the decision boundary between the different items that you're trying to categorize. One of the powerful things here then, as a little sneak peek, is that it's not going to choose things that are outside of what you're going to categorize. If you're saying these are the things to choose from, it will really only choose from those things. So that's a level of control there that you can't get with other types of models. You might also want to ask things like, given the colors and shape of this logo, which brand do I represent? Because we know that brands have different types of feelings, and sometimes even looking at it without the text itself, you already know what's going on. You might want to ask these days, given this email text, Is the writer a human or an AI? This is a discriminative type of question. And you might say, more practically speaking, given these conversion metrics, which campaign should I be using to increase my spend or decrease my spend? Now, given this in a more visual form, we can look at generative AI as saying, I have all of these points in some vector space that's in some sort of embedding. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sample one of those points anywhere within this space. And if my model is trained correctly, I should be able to draw something out that looks pretty reasonable. So in this case, it's like maybe a picture of a cat on the one side or a picture of a dog on the other side. But you don't really know what you're doing until you sample. On the other hand, a discriminant model will say, I don't actually know what's exactly going on at each point in the embedding space, but I do know that there's a line down the middle, so I can tell you that if the point is on this side of the line, it's probably a cat. If it's on the other side of the line, it's probably a dog, and that's all I need to do. So that really leads directly into the strengths of each model type. A discriminative model usually has fairly high accuracy. That's because all the model power is pointed directly at training it to do the tasks that you care about. I'm only trying to do like dogs versus cats, so I don't need to model the full distribution, and I can do my job pretty darn well. This also means that you get really high efficiency because the computational resources required to train a model of equal power is usually much smaller. And as we mentioned earlier, this also gives you quite a bit good of control. These kinds of models set up in the correct way don't really hallucinate, since the models only choose from the set of options that you provide as classes. Now, one of the things that we've heard a couple of times with generative AI is that they hallucinate. But hallucination can actually be seen as one of the strengths because it allows those models to be creative and come up with new ideas that have not been considered before for novel applications. It's also great for diversity because generative models allow you to sample from the distribution to produce diverse examples for cases such as data augmentation or interpretability. What's really great is that when you have these types of models, they're actually also quite flexible as well. Even though they've been trained just to model the full distribution, you can use them for cases beyond what they've been trained for, including classification. You can actually use generative AI for discrimination if you know how to set up the Bayes rule and some of this other mathematical setup. So it's pretty powerful. And what we'd really like to do then is maybe somehow combine them. And what I'm going to talk about first, though, is still just applying discriminative AI in some of these use cases by alone. So with discriminative AI alone, one of the things that you can do is customer targeting. You might want to use it to decide which customer segments are most likely to click or buy. You can also look at it as trying to predict customers who will churn or those who will retain, and then be able to launch some sort of plan of attack before it's too late. This is also helpful with lead scoring and prioritization because then you can score your leads and you can forecast how much a candidate customer might be willing to pay. These are all very practical, real-life use cases that you probably have seen or maybe even already do at your companies. And finally, another very common one is sentiment analysis, where you're trying to monitor for positive or negative, right? This is the discrimination part, type of news around your brand. Or you just use it to analyze customer reviews or feedback at scale. So as we were teasing earlier then, is there a way to get the best of both worlds? And the spoiler alert is yes. In fact, we're going to be kind of showing a demo of some of this later today, and also kind of wrapping up with, again, some marketing applications using everything together. So before I get into that, let's set things up a little bit. If we're trying to get the best of everything, then we first must realize that many training algorithms and modalities exist, each with their own trade-offs. But for each one of these algorithms, they can't be two things at once. That is either discriminative or generative. So if we want to get the best of everything, what we're really talking about is a system that contains multiple models. Each of their models is one type or the other, and we try to mix them together in the best way possible. One of the ways that we can do this then, when we do this properly, then we can get the best of both, because the traditional methods are highly accurate and fast, but historically could not handle the long tail of requests. The new foundation models are flexible enough to fill in the blanks to actually deal with some of those long tail items. And so when we do that correctly, we might see something that's the best of everything. One application of this is actually AI agents, when done correctly. We've seen a lot of companies only do the generative AI side, and they are having all those strengths, but also all those weaknesses. So trying to mix them together is actually quite powerful, and that's exactly what we do at Soleta. We really are trying to build an agent that avoids hallucination by predicting, like explicitly, the user intent. And that really just means choosing from the intents that we give it, and so we know it's not going to choose from outside of that set. We're also able to overcome false assumptions by relying on classic approaches to dealing with uncertainty. And at the same time, we're taking advantage of generative AI to handle edge cases with dynamic neurosymbolic reasoning. So really just trying to get the best of everything. The use case that I'm going to kind of show you, I guess I should talk about the use case of the company as a whole. Really, we're trying to build an AI agent that's good for data management in spreadsheets, because a lot of you guys have to deal with spreadsheets, and really you should be working on marketing, not data cleaning. And so a lot of what the agent does is it does data cleaning and preparation for marketing analytics. It's also integrating information together from different marketing channels, such as your LinkedIns, your Googles, your Facebooks, so on and so forth. And finally, wrapping it all up in some sort of analysis and reporting in a verifiable and repeatable manner. The first example that I'm going to show you is how to figure out the conversion rate with a specific metric definition. This is actually quite useful because every company maybe has different ways to calculate this very common metric. And if you were only to use generative AI, it might blindly make assumptions about how your company defines conversion rate. It also fails to account for messy reality. It likes to just usually jump in and talk, right, as we've all seen. And so this ultimately will lead to plausible sounding, but ultimately incorrect answers. And really, you want to use a little bit of that discriminative side to balance that out. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to a demo of my app. This is kind of scary because we're not fully tested yet. So bear with me if there's any sort of hiccups, but let's give it a shot. Let's see. Okay, so what I'm doing very quickly is just loading the spreadsheet. Let's see if this is working. This is, I think the internet needs to take a little bit of time. There you go. What is the rate for users from? So I guess what I should say first is that this is a spreadsheet with information about activity types of users coming in. This is like your classic streaming logs. You've got some activity data, different types, you've got some times, you've got your URLs where they're coming from, so on and so forth. You also have things like the purchases table, which includes different product IDs, different quantities. This is actually just a spreadsheet, so if you wanted to change stuff, you can go ahead and do that. But I'm going to go ahead and just ask this question first, which is, what is the conversion rate for users from Yahoo? Now, what should happen is Dana, who's our agent, should start to think. And the key point to kind of call out here is that Dana doesn't actually give you an answer. That's kind of surprising. So what's going on? So behind the scenes, Dana says that to calculate the conversion rate for users from Yahoo, we should start by filtering the activities table using the refer URL column to identify visits originating from Yahoo. The activity type column, this one right here, in the activities table is likely the best candidate to determine visits because the formula for conversion is supposed to be conversion over visits, right? But how did we decide what is a visit? How did we decide what is a conversion? So this is not totally known. So what Dana is actually doing is not giving an answer and saying, should I use visit site or view product from the activity type column to determine visits? You should use visit site to determine visits. And additionally, is there any criteria for conversion? And use purchase activity type as the conversion. No need to join with the purchases table. Okay, so this is really a sign here of the fact that the agent is truly trying to understand you before moving forward with something. And then should I use purchase activity even though it's not? Yes, use the purchase activity type for conversions. And it's going to do some more thinking, and it needs to do some more clarification. Hopefully, let's see what happens this time. We should filter it. Okay, I'm still having trouble understanding your request. Like, Dana is just really making sure that we understand what's going on before moving forward. And so now we might say, well, conversion depends on activity type. It also depends on user ID. The visit also depends on activity type, and it also depends on the referrer ID because it's supposed to be users from Yahoo. So I really want to now filter for users from Yahoo. Oh, we also have to select a time range because we didn't tell it what time we should really choose from. And so now we're telling Dana, please use all available data without any restriction on the time range. Now we get an answer. See, so this is really the distinction here. We're not just using generative AI to like spit out something. We're really discriminating step by step by step. Do we have all the information possible? Do we have the conversion part? Do we have the visit part? Do we have the formula part? Do we have the time range? And then being able to put all of that together. Very cool. I'm now going to show you a second demo. Let's go ahead and close this out. Then go here. So I'm going to show 3 short questions. Hopefully this will go pretty quickly. I know I have only a few minutes left. We're going to say something like, so in this table, we have some order data from different products, different customers, and sizes. What kind of things is this? This is actually different shoe sizes and shoe brands. So there's different styles, there's different brands, there's different costs. We might also say, what is in the customers, what data is in the customers table? And over here, this should be pretty straightforward. So Dana will go ahead and answer that question. The customers table contains 584 customer records with personal information, including first, last, so on and so forth. And also kind of jumps to that column and that table to really pinpoint, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. You were on the products table, but now you were talking about customers. It's very cool. Let's go ahead and ask a question, though. Please show me the average, what did I want to ask? Revenue we made each month in 2023. Okay, so now Dana should be able to do a little bit of thinking behind the scenes once again and calculate that and give you an answer. The average revenue we made each month was so on and so forth. It gives you a nice little summary. It's not spitting out tons and tons of information because you already have that information right there. Dana is smart enough to recognize like what does a normal human interaction look like and kind of truncate that a little bit. As we move forward, though, we can also do other things over here, such as saying like, can you split the date column into month, day, and year? And so this is just really another request, and then Dana will go ahead and do some thinking as usual, and sure, I've made the changes. And we can look at this, and it's actually fairly complicated. Once again, you have to like decide how to do this, and the month, and the day, and the year, create those columns, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of stuff going on. What the next thing I want to show you, though, is really going to highlight this discriminative versus generative nature. I'm going to say, please show me the average revenue we made each month in 2023. And I'm going to start this over to ask the exact same question. But this time, I'm going to control my agent in a way that behaves a little bit differently, which is something that you can't really do with a normal agent. And so I'm going to just basically paste this exact request, but because I've given it a little bit of a push towards something, then it also knows that in addition to just querying it, I also want to see a visual. I also want to see a graph of it. And that was basically guaranteed. I can do this 100 times, and every single time it's going to listen to this. Now, if I said the words a little bit differently, then there's some interpretation. But this is the type of control that you can have when you're running with generative AI. When you're running with discriminative AI. And then as one last thing, I'm going to do this one last way, is 2 points. I'm going to copy and paste this piece of text because this is written as Gen Z speak, which I do not speak fluently. What you have actually said to the agent is, yo, AI bestie, could you do me a solid and like vibe check the average sales for each month? Just need those monthly T-spills for the Riz, you know? And there's like little emojis and things like that, but ultimately it's asking the exact same thing that I asked 2 other times before. It's asking for the average revenue per month. And this time though, because there's still generative AI in it, it's flexible enough to still give you those answers. So here's the monthly average T-spill for you. January was blah, 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 and gives you exactly in that style what you want it to do. And then you can also go further. Let's see if there's one last thing. This might be too much, but let's give it a shot. Oh my God, you're the real MVP. Those stats are fire. But like, what's the T on the kicks themselves? Which shoes are like the main character here? Give me the deets on who's slaying, who's getting ghosted. Okay, this is actually a pretty tough question, definitely not written in a professional tone, but boom, Dana's just smart enough to figure it out, okay? The main characters in the shoe are Converse kids running shoes with a total sales of $990, Converse men's, and Steve Madden women's. These kicks are definitely slaying the scene. All right, that's the demo. I'm gonna wrap things up now. So as you've seen, one of the things that you can really do when you mix everything together is AI co-pilots for productivity. This is exactly what Soleta is working on. We're starting with an agent for data cleaning, integration, analysis. We're going to be moving on in the future to things related to presentations, email, calendar management, so on and so forth. As a marketer, you can also use chatbots and AI yourself as well, maybe for combining data for context-aware chatbots. You can also use everything combined together for things like forecasting. Like, for example, generating possible scenarios and synthetic users with foundation models, then using discriminative models to take advantage of those techniques to predict who is likely to convert. All in all, hopefully we've been able to show you the superpower of putting everything together with traditional ML and generative AI. All right, that's it. Thank you so much.
Nice. Cool. Do we have questions? Yes.
Hi, thanks for the talk. I guess I'm not sure where I saw the discriminative ML going on there. I mean, I've seen various tools that create like a pandas-like LLM experience to reason over.
Yeah.
But where exactly do we integrate machine learning type training with LLM in this?
Yeah, so the idea here then is that before I pass anything into like an LLM piece, what I'm really doing is something called NLU, Natural Language Understanding. And the Natural Language Understanding module is fine-tuned to only do classification. And the types of, it's actually fairly complex because this starts to get real, but at a high level, the classification it's doing is, let's say I have 10 different types of user intents, 10 different buckets that I can go into. And I'm going to categorize it to one of those intents before deciding what kind of actions to take. And it's that first discriminative part which is really critical because I don't want it to choose something that I can't handle. Does that answer your question? Awesome.
More questions? Yes?
Hi, how are you? So thank you so much. I mean, it was amazing, like, demo. My question is, like, in the first demo that you did about the conversion rate, like, you are asking the questions and you're giving, like, okay, this is the column that I need and everything. I mean, how that information is saved, so I don't need to, you know, ask the question, you know, again and tell the data, like, hey, this is the columns to calculate the conversion. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, this is also one of the key differences that we do with Dana is because it's not just a black box wrapper, we're actually explicitly capturing that information within our NLU module. And it's because we're explicitly predicting it with discriminative AI and capturing it, we can actually use that to store your user preference, your metric, and reuse that in the future.
Cool. We have time for one more question. No? All right. If we want to test your product, what should we do?
Right now, the waitlist is open. We're at soleta.ai, soleda.ai. And if you check it out, happy to put you to the front of the wait list and let you guys give it a spin.
Nice. Thanks, Derek. Let's give Derek a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We just have a few slides. If you liked what you see and if you want to know about our next events, we have 2 pages, one on meetup.com, the other one on Luma. Please feel free to check them out. Our next events, AI for marketers. Okay, out of battery. Right on time. So AI for Marketers 21 is going to be on December 4. If you are interested in design or engineering, we have a meetup on November 13 for designers and another one for developers on November 20th. And now it's time for community mic. So if you have any product announcements, looking for a job, offering a job, anything, just feel free to come here and you have the mic for a minute. Yeah, please. You can stand here. All right.
Hi, everyone. Is anybody use Ahrefs or Salesforce or something like that? All right. So I work on a new project that monitors AI search engines like Perplexity, Google Gemini, in a way like Ahrefs or Salesforce. So if you're interested, let's get in touch. I'm happy to provide access to beta users.
All right. Great. Cool. That was a great one. Yes. That's great. You can stand here.
Hey, my name's John. I'm the co-founder of a co-working space called Anchor Co-working. And one of the things I've been coming to was the developers sessions, as well as my first marketing one. And I wanted to extend to all the guest members a free day pass if anyone wants to use a co-working space for the day. We're located at Market and Van Ness, and we have a number of AI companies there. We have co-working desks for individuals and day passes. So free offer if you'd like it.
Nice. Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, come.
Hi everyone, my name is JP. I have a product that I just developed. I'm a solo founder who built an application that I'm looking to market. So I'm not necessarily hiring an employee, but maybe if someone, a marketing professional looking for a gig, a side gig on the side, or maybe if Cloud Contact has a service that fits my solution, fits my problem, then please come speak to me after. So the application that I have is called Oddsball. It is a online social platform related to sports where users compete in leagues with other users by making fantasy wagers on real sports odds using fake currency in order to increase your fantasy wallet. It's ready to use. It's on the app stores. It's a web app and a mobile app. And I'm looking to figure out ways to get some users quickly. And I figure AI is a useful tool to get it out there quickly. So anybody interested, please talk to me after. My name is JP. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. Yes.
Hey everybody, name is Joselito. I am an AI artist also. This is actually a call more for other artists and other Imagineers. I'm currently working on a generative AI magazine and looking for collaborators, the people that are interested in utilizing their design skills and marketing capabilities, using AI agents. And this is more just for fun. We're more kind of like an experimental group. I'm part of a group called Revolt, and we've been using programs like Suno and Runway ML and all the new stuff that they've been coming out to create content. But I'm also looking for those that are interested in the finance space. We're also creating trade bots as well as other tools. So if you're interested in just talking and collaborating and exchanging ideas, please talk to me later. Thanks.
Cool. Joselito is a special guest because he's the one who built the LED wall you see here. So thank you, Joselito. It works very well.
I'll just speak really quickly, but my name's Gigi, and I'm representing a startup that's currently raising money. And it's at the crossroads of humanitarian assistance, development, and technology. So if anyone's interested, but also if anyone has any good connections with investments, any investors, please come and speak to me at the back by the pizza.
Thank you. One more? All right. Two more. Okay.
Hey everyone, I'm Mario. I am a hacker. I'm a founder also. I founded 4 startups. And right now I'm running a cybersecurity company. We're looking for companies that are wanting to be compliant or hacked before the bad guys. And we're also looking for partnerships, so happy to talk. Thank you.
Cool. All right. One more before pizzas.
Sorry to be the last one. My name is Al. I'm a product manager at ZoomInfo. If you haven't looked at ZoomInfo in a while, I'd recommend take a look. We're all in on AI, and you might know us for our data. And actually, Google's LLMs in their cloud, when they sell cloud, they actually ground their LLMs on ZoomInfo data. So as you know, best data is going to get you the best results. The Copilot is quite amazing. We have 100 million companies and all their data built into a chatbot, imagine. So salespeople can prepare for calls. We pull in CRM data, we pull in Chorus call transcripts. It's quite interesting if you want to kind of see what is possible with amazing data for enabling salespeople to be really great. Take a look. Happy to chat about it or show you a demo. I focus on the intent data, which is also another interesting area. So thank you.
Very cool. Super interesting. And that's it. So thank you all for attending. We're going to start networking. We have pizzas over there waiting for you. Thank you, LinkedIn, YouTube. See you next time. Thank you all.